So this is my Teachers in Action project. My name is Caitlin Shea, and I am in Dr. Dan's class for EX4070. So I was actually able to do my Teachers in Action project for 2 locations. So the first location that I volunteered my time was at an event, and it was held at Avalon Church. And it was their family and fall celebration. It was their fall festival. So I was able to do it there. And the second place I volunteered my time was at my internship placement at Wolf Lake Elementary School, and it's located in Apopka, Florida. And it was actually in my internship classroom, in my supervising teacher's classroom. So I had already had a relationship with those students. The community need number 1 is where I did my first. Anytime you see the number 1, I'm referring to the first placement where I did my where I volunteered. So it's at the fall festival. So for the fall festival, I was working with my friend Allie Dodge, who actually was in contact with Avalon Church and setting up the booth and everything like that. So she was in charge of her booth where I volunteered. And so it was my friend Allie Dodge who set up and created the idea for the Buddies booth at the festival. The Buddies booth was to help families with special needs or disabilities who came to the festival and give them an extra helping hand. The parent would sign their name and on the sign-up sheet at the booth, and their buddy would sign their name as well. The goal was to help children with special needs throughout the festival and help their family as well. So the participant demographics was the child that I was working with was 3 years old, and he had Down syndrome. And Down syndrome is a condition where a person has an extra chromosome. Usually Down syndrome occurs when someone has a partial or full extra copy of chromosome 21. The child that I was working with also had a feeding tube that was in his stomach, so I had to watch and make sure that feeding tube, especially when he was on the bounce house when I was with him, that he didn't move around or go on top of one of the sections of the baby bouncer that could pull at his feeding tube in his stomach. So the activity that I did with my little buddy was I signed up to help a family with a 3-year-old little boy with Down syndrome. This little boy had a feeding tube in his stomach, which I already stated, and I had to make sure that his feeding tube did not come out while he was playing. I was there to provide a break to the parents so that they could socialize and eat without having to worry about anything. I played with this little boy on the baby bounce house, and then I pushed him in his stroller around the festival. The festival is where I completed 5 hours of my service learning. So like I said, I helped with this little boy, and it was difficult because he couldn't talk, but I was able to talk and communicate with his mom and his dad, which gave me a little information about him, and I really got to see how hard it is on them as well. And right here I have 2 pictures because I couldn't take any photos with my buddy. The mom wanted to keep that separate, so I have a picture of her signing her name, and that's me in the mauve pinkish purple shirt and shoes of her signing up and me being with my little buddy. And that is also a picture of the buddy's sign to where people knew to come over to sign up that Allie created. For the second community need, this is where I am in my internship school, in my supervising teacher's classroom. So for my internship school, I was working in my supervising teacher's classroom on my non-internship days to help out 2 students that have autism. I was in there on Thursday and Friday. Those are my non-internship days because my internship days are on Monday and Tuesday. So I was there on Thursday and Friday. And then I thought this would be a great opportunity to really help and provide the support that these 2 students need. I was able to work with these students, one on Thursday and one on Friday. It was also a great opportunity to help these students because these students have failed the math, and one of these students had failed the math test and the reading test, so I got the opportunity to reteach that student and also help the student that did not. I got to help reinforce the skills that they had already learned. Their demographics, both these students have autism. Autism is a neurological and developmental disorder that affects how people interact with others, communicate, learn, and behave. Both first and second student, that's how I'll be going by since I won't be able to say names. Both the first and second student have IEPs that specify repeated instruction and 1 to 3 instruction, so 1 teacher to 3 kids. Also, both students wear headphones to block out loud noises, and this helps them focus on the tasks. It also helps them focus on my teacher's voice and my voice as well. When I'm in the 1 to 3, it helps them focus on my voice as well. So for the engagement activities that I did with my students, so when I was working with the 2 students, I wanted to keep both of the activities related to each other and tweak them to what either the first or the second student needed. So on Thursday, I was working with the first student who scored a B on both the reading and the math tests. So I helped just with his fluency and reading a nonfiction book about penguins, just to re-enhance his fluency and also help when it would come time for testing about words per minute and everything like that. This would help. So for math, I brought in a deck of cards, and we made equations. So the first player would put down a card, and then the second player would put down a card, and then we would both have to figure out what card would have to be added or subtracted to make the equation true. So if I put down a 6 and he put down a jack, we were saying that jack was 10. So we both knew that would be 16. So we would need another 6 or a 10. Or we also played where if I put down a 6 and then he put down the 10, we could rearrange it so that we could have the 6 be first and then have the 10 be what was the number that had to be equal to. So it would be a 4 that we would have to put down to make the equation true. And then we also had it for subtraction. So he put down, I know on one of his, he put down it was an 8. And then I put down, it was a 10. So I know we had to rearrange the equation. So since I had the higher number, so he put the 10 first, and then he put the 9. And then we both knew that since we were playing with cards, we made the ace a 1. So we knew that was 1 and that an ace had to go there. Whoever had an ace in their deck, since we split the deck, we knew the ace had to go there. So we did that for both since they haven't learned multiplication or division yet. We just did addition and subtraction, and we just made equations to make them true. For my second student that I was with on Friday, I had to spend a little bit more time reteaching since he got a D on his reading and his math tests. So for reading, they had taken their test on informational text, and they had text features. They had a passage on their test that they had to read, and then they had to point out different text features and how it helped them in the story, and then it was also answering questions about the story. So I retaught using different, my teacher's chart had different text features on it, which that'll be in the next slide. And then I used the same penguins text, and I had him use sticky note tabs, and I had him go through each page and tab the different text features that were in the story. And then for math, we used the same deck of cards, and we played an addition math game. So we each had half the deck as well, and we would each of us would flip over one card at a time, and we would add the sum together. We tried doing it with subtraction, but I thought it was better if we were just doing addition. He seemed to really like it and was able to understand it more when we were doing addition, so we just stick with addition. I couldn't take photos with both of my students again. They were on the, I asked my supervising teacher, and she told me that they could not be photographed. So I took photographs of what we did. I forgot to take photos of the math game, and I didn't want to recreate it at home and have it not be authentic. So I just used the pictures that I took in that moment. So that the first picture is the different text features. That's actually my teacher's wall on our bulletin board. So I took pictures of the different text features that she had, and I used that with my second student when I was reteaching. And then this is the Penguins book that I read with both of the students, and that is a picture of the tabs and everything of what he did with the different text features. And then this is my log that I created so that I could keep track of my hours, and then I could also get them signed off. So it was my first buddies activity, when I completed it, my number of hours, and then the organizer and her signature, and then my supervising teacher, and then the dates that I was in there, her name, and then her signature. So perceptions of differences. Working with the little boy with Down syndrome was harder than I thought it was going to be, because he couldn't talk and he couldn't explain to me what he needed. So it was up to me to make sure that everything was good and that he was okay. So I was nervous when the mom had told me about the feeding tube initially, because I wanted to make sure that I was checking on him and checking the feeding tube, but I also didn't want to make sure that I was hovering over him and making sure that he couldn't do what he wanted to do or have fun. And then working with the two students in my internship class, I was a little bit more comfortable because I actually have a cousin who has autism, so I kind of knew. And then it also made me feel more comfortable because they're in my internship classroom. I see them on Mondays and Tuesdays, so they know what to expect from me. But this way, it was just, I already know them. I know we have a relationship, so it was easier for me when I was reteaching and helping them and playing the games with them. I only played the games with those two students. I didn't play the games or read the Penguins book with any of the other students in the classroom, so it was only with them. And then I also helped them throughout the day. Like, I was helping them with science, I was helping them during math and reading and writing. So, and then my connections to EEX 4070 with Dr. Dan. The first concept that I understand better is autism. Like I said, I have a cousin with autism, but I'm not working one-on-one with her. So working with these two students allowed me to understand how their brain worked when it came to learning. And it also helped me understand that having a routine and a schedule is very important to these two students. During my time on Thursdays and Fridays, both of my students were told at the beginning of the day that I was going to be working with them and only them two. So on Thursday, I worked with my first student, and then on Friday, I worked with my second student. And so we told both of them that I was going to be working with them. And at first, it kind of threw them off a little, but once we were in it, it was good. I'm interested to see how it's going to be on Monday, to see how it'll be, since they do like a routine. But they should be okay, since it'll just be a normal Monday and Tuesday. But it definitely showed me how much they value a routine. The second concept I understand better is interactive activities. Having the interactive activities with both of my students, they loved it. They loved reading the book with me, tabbing the text features. He loved it so much because it was one-on-one and it was something that he got to do just with me. Instead of just reading the book, he got to actually do it, and he knew to do it on each page, which was great. And then, as well as playing the math games, they both liked playing the math games so much, even though they were different and they were modified to what each student needed. My first student was able to do the equations and understand that and understand what would be missing. And my second student needed the more modified, needed it to be toned down to just adding. Like I said at the beginning, we tried subtraction, but it wasn't clicking. And it could have been on me. So we just stuck with the addition, and he loved it. He loved doing the addition. He tried to beat me in saying the sum of what the numbers would be. He tried to beat me every single time. So it was so good. They loved doing it. It's definitely something I want to incorporate on the Mondays and Tuesdays that I'm there too. I want to incorporate it not just with them, but also with the other students in the classroom as well, because I think it would be so fun. And we could even do different games with the whole class and have it be teams. I think that would be super, super fun. So they both really enjoyed it. And I also think they enjoyed it because it wasn't just worksheets. I know throughout the day they have to do a lot of worksheets. So I think this was a really fun way to have them do an activity where it wasn't that. And they just got to have fun and play. So it was really, really good. So the third concept I understand better is I understand the effects of a child with a disability on a family. So we're in my first placement when I was at the fall festival, when I met the mom of the little boy with Down syndrome. She was so happy that I was there and that she could take a second just to focus on herself and her husband. She looked so relieved when she saw the buddy stand and she signed up, and I signed up with her. She seemed so relieved. She first asked me, the first question when I first met her was if I was comfortable with the fact that he had a feeding tube, and obviously I was when she told me what I was looking for and everything like that. She was so relieved, and it just looked like a weight was lifted off of her shoulders. And I was so happy that I could provide that for her. And she told me that she was so grateful for me being there at the end because it gave her a chance to socialize with her friends and with other adults that were there without having to worry about standing and playing with him on the baby bounce, or, making sure he was good in the stroller or anything like that. So it really helped me helped me better understand the importance of how much these parents need just a break, which I completely get, because it's not easy on them, just like it's not easy on the child with it either. Everybody just needs a break. So I was really happy I got to provide that for her. and her husband. And then civic engagement. I think that volunteering is very important. It can help show and give you different experiences that you might not have available to you. Sorry, I'm also sick, so I know if I'm coming in grainy, I know that's what it is. I'm fighting back the urge to cough. So I also think that volunteering can be difficult when you are trying to find an organization to volunteer at. I know I especially had a hard time finding a place to volunteer. I sent emails and I had so many different phone calls to different organizations, and I just left my number, my name, and an email for them to get back to me at, and I know no one called me back, and sometimes I would even call again to different places. I left 2 phone messages and nobody would return back. Same thing with email. So I would encourage teachers and students to embrace service learning, because I think it can provide different experiences for students. I just think it should be maybe at a place that you know that they need it, and like how many at each place. That way it can be easier for students to volunteer at and maybe plan for. My final thoughts, one thing that I could do is advocate for volunteering. I learned a lot, and I truly got to see how kids with autism and Down syndrome learn, play, and communicate. I also got to learn a lot from the parents with a child Down syndrome and how hard it is for her every day. So it was really eye-opening, and I truly loved my experience. I think teachers do so much every day as well, between teaching academics, teaching social skills as what we've learned and seen, and just their problem solving that they do. They do so much even more than that every day, and I do think that teachers are the greater good of society. I truly believe that with how much that they do and help in their community, and every single day they help so much. So thank you. That was my project.